I call the member for Coomera.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I rise to make a contribution to the report on the Parliamentary Crime and Corruption Committee, in fact report number 108, an inquiry into the Crime and Corruption Commission's investigation of former councillors of Logan City Council and related matters. This inquiry and the report that resulted from it is the most significant piece of work undertaken by the PCCC in my time as a member of the committee. It was through an all-encompassing and, importantly, the final report. It was thorough, I should say, and all-encompassing, and the final report was bipartisan and unanimously supported by all members. I note that all recommendations were accepted by the government. I turn now to some observations I made emanating from the process. Firstly, I note that during questioning there was a high number of instances where words to the effect "I do not recall" were used in answer to witnesses to questions posed by council or members of the committee. Troublingly, this is a similar response that was provided around 60 times, each by DS Francis and the then chair of the CCC, Alan McSporran QC. On the material we have seen and the evidence given by witnesses and any reasonable person would come to the same conclusion I have. Simply put, the CCC were wrong to go down the pathway they went. The CCC should not have charged the 7 councillors with fraud and forced the sacking of the Logan City Council. There were some inconsistencies in answers to some questions. For example, in the evidence from DS Francis, he insisted it was he who decided to charge fraud against the 7 councillors. Later we discovered that it was indeed Mr McSporran and Mr Alsbury that did that. Interestingly, that charge came as a surprise to other police officers. Regarding the charge of fraud, Mr McSporran had quite a bit to say about the DPP supporting the CCC decision to charge because the DPP took the matter to court. My observation is that given what had happened, the Logan City Council being sacked and the administrator appointed, the DPP had little choice if they had abandoned the case without taking the next step. They would have been pilloried. After 9 days of testing the evidence, the judge and the DPP agreed to abandon the case was the right thing to do. In fact, His Honour, in the court transcript, said in his response to the DPP decision not to proceed, "I will be careful with my language, but from what I saw and heard in those 2 weeks in November, I think that a proper decision was made." So too the QIRC adjudicator came to the same conclusion following the QIRC hearings. In my view, the reality was that the investigating officer was not an independent officer looking at the case after the investigation was complete, looking at all of the evidence for and against. He was too close to the case to form an independent and unbiased view. The case should have been reviewed independently by the DPP or someone external to the CCC. In many respects, it looks like these 7 councillors were the unfortunate target of CCC chairperson bent on nailing a few elected local government representatives with a serious charge. Mr McSporran's press release spoke to that, talking about the Operation Front as a stark reminder of problems in local government sector in Queensland. It turned out that there were only 2 local government people that had been imprisoned as a result of this from 2015 through to today. But it does seem to reflect some of the aspirations that Mr McSporran had. Some comments now regarding transcripts. During the hearing, Counsel Dr Heaton QC made the strong point, what might appear to have persuasive strength in written form and in a statement taken by police officers does not always reflect how the evidence comes across when given orally. I would say particularly when it is biased in the way and one-sided the way this was. I note I'm running out of time, so I'll conclude by saying, the internal actions of the CCC officers, including the chair, police officers and lawyers involved in the case, were corrupted. The consequences of corruption accumulate. Failure to react to errors of corruption in the data when they occur incrementally causes the error to be stored up, compounding across time. I wish all of the councillors well for their future and hope that this action taken by us has in some way given them some sense of natural justice being achieved. And I'll finish with a quote from the Bible that sums it up. John 8:32, "The truth will set you free."
Deputy Speaker.